Hello everyone, this is part 20 of What If Naruto was in the 7 Ninja Swordsman, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Standing atop the hospital's rooftop, Naruto silently glanced at the moon shining in the night sky. After a few moments, his gaze shifted towards the mist village spread all around him as the conversation with Madara came back in his heart. He had decided to team up with that man and had even used his powers to free Kushina from the curse mark bestowed by the Azuki in order to keep an eye on him by controlling her. But could he really trust that Uchiha to hold up his end of the bargain? He had his doubts as to whether Madara could truly bring his deceased loved ones back to life, and only time would tell if the man spoke the truth. He still didn't like the way in which most people saw him. A great general. He may have proven his prowess on the battlefield leading armies, but that only showed his capability to destroy his enemies in armed conflict. As far as politics and the art of ruling went, he had a lot to learn if he hoped to succeed in his efforts. He blinked when Kushina appeared beside him with a quick shunshin and grabbed a seat wordlessly. They want me to be the fourth Mizukage, he admitted to her. Figured as much. They would be foolish not to offer you this after the way you won and your past deeds. Word has also arrived that Mangetsu and his army triumphed. The capital and this country is now yours, she congratulated him with a bright smile. Kushina frowned when it only made him silently stare at the vast landscape in front of him. Why not name you third Mizukage, as was your original role and one designated by Lord Genjutsu? She asked in order to bring his attention back to the important topic. Something about letting Yagura's short-lived reign as the third Mizukage be etched into the village's history as a reminder to future generations. The man also KO'd quite a few from the village who tried to oppose him. Would be strange if people are forced to call me, Sandaime, the same as that man. I guess people really need a fresh start, answered Naruto honestly. Yondaime, huh? Anybody who will challenge this? Questioned his friend. Just Mangetsu. The rest don't have the courage or strength. I'll handle him, replied Naruto straightforwardly. She paused and watched him glance at the moon in the night sky with a longing gaze. What are you thinking? She asked him gently. Do you think someday we'll be able to glance beyond our petty issues? There is a whole galaxy out there waiting to be explored, and here we are fighting for petty things while the Otsutsuki, if they exist, are out conquering entire planets and solar systems, he whispered thoughtfully. Maybe it's because humanity hasn't found a leader yet who could show them their real destiny is out there in the stars. I agree with you, we are always fighting for this piece or that piece of land or resources or grudges. There is plenty for every one of us in this universe. We just don't know how to get it even if we have the power. I think you can do it, she encouraged him, making him chuckle. Me, who couldn't even protect his family, friends or unborn child? He argued, some despair evident in his voice which made her sigh. You are a good man and a great leader, but your fatal flaw is your lack of belief in yourself. Never hesitate, that's what we were taught as Spartans. Have you forgotten that? Reminded Kushina. He remained silent, and it was then she saw the scars left on his very psyche by the events of his painful life. Despite how hard he had tried he always ended up losing what was dear to him, which affected his belief in his own abilities. Giving up is worse than defeat. What is that you truly fear? She asked seriously. I don't want to end up creating a system far worse than the current one. The battlefield I understand much more than I would like. It's what comes after those victories that worries me, and whether I'll do the right thing or end up just like the leaders of today whom I despise, he admitted, earning an understanding nod from his friend. Kushina glanced at the vast village surrounding the two of them and then glanced back at the handsome man she loved dearly. If you help end the current war in Kiri and Konoha's favor, you can stay here in Kirigakure. You'll most probably find a good woman to marry, have a family of your own. In the end, you'll probably be a celebrated man, the finest this nation would ever see in a long time. But sooner or later, your wishes will be forgotten and your descendants probably will continue enduring the current vicious cycle. And if you follow Madara's plan, an uncertain path awaits you. One full of hardship and even pain, yet one that will help you actually change the world and bring back the ones you lost to life. Victory and eternal glory would be yours. Your name will live on in the hearts of men long after you are gone from this world. Your reforms, great or terrible, will impact the future generations of humanity for centuries, but you'll not be able to live a peaceful life. Naruto looked up to glance at his friend, who in turn was now looking at the village before them with a hopeful smile. The glory and memory of mankind shall always belong to the ones who followed the great visions. Like the sage of six paths, Hashirama Senju, and the greatest of them all that united this world, the Black Flash, whispered Kushina hopefully. The greatest shinobi of the world. She looked at him and he was rendered speechless by the sheer level of confidence in her eyes. It was almost the same as the one he saw in Madara. Maybe these people saw something in him which he himself couldn't. For better or worse, he knew which path was the one his heart truly desired despite his fears as he looked at the stars in the night sky after getting back on his feet. Imperium of Man, he whispered thoughtfully with a smile. Kushina blinked in surprise on hearing his declaration and was about to chuckle until she saw the determination burning in his eyes as his right hand voluntarily reached for the stars. I'll conquer it all. My enemies, my fears, the 5 great nations and this world. You're right, I'll follow my vision with the support of my comrades and let mankind and history be my judge, declared Naruto with absolute determination. She nodded and watched as he took his first steps towards a dream that would probably change everyone's fate. Imperial capital. Mangetsu sat alone in the daimyo's royal courtroom, its once magnificent carpets stained with copious amount of and right from the entrance towards the royal throne lay a series of pikes upon which were the severed heads of the former feudal lord, all his consorts, each of his relatives, and all his children including the youngest one aged 7. The royal family was extinct now. And yet it didn't satisfy the hole in his heart and the rage within his very soul as he glanced at the decorated casket near the throne holding the mortal remains of his beloved father. He could still not forget the sight of seeing his tea lying there in the dungeons, his wounds and scars a clear indication he had suffered terribly in his final hours. He looked outside the window to see dozens of fire raging across the city as he had not stopped his men from extracting their vengeance upon the daimyo's advisors alongside their entire clans for their crimes. He for one simply didn't care as the reason for which he had fought, the reason for which he had stained his hands with the blood of hundreds of innocents, lied in a box right beside him. He won the battle yet lost everything. He had rebuffed Haku's attempts at consolation and had locked himself in this room for the past 2 days after the daimyo and his entire family with his own hands. Mangetsu. He looked up from the depths of his despair to see the one person he wanted to avoid for as long as possible but couldn't as Naruto Namikaze now stood before him. Teleportation. You used the kunai you gave to Amayuri earlier to transport yourself here the moment you heard about the capital's fall, whispered the young Hozuki heir lifelessly. The blonde looked at the grotesque display all around him followed by the coffin resting near to the boy. With a heavy sigh he walked towards it and knelt respectfully. I heard about what they did to Lord Second. He didn't deserve any of it, whispered Naruto sadly, as he gently placed his hand upon the coffin. Still doesn't change what happened, does it? Asked Mangetsu bitterly. No, replied the blonde honestly. Why is it that good men like him meet such fate while monsters like us continue to survive? Asked the younger boy hatefully. Because this world is cruel. He looked at the blonde as he arrived by his side and silently took a seat. Did you feel the same rage and pain that I feel now after what had happened to your wife and child? He asked hesitantly. Worse, whispered Naruto truthfully. I couldn't follow your orders, not after what happened to my father. I even encouraged the men to do what they did for revenge. Do what you want to do with me, confessed Mangetsu truthfully. I hardly have any right to chastise you after half of Osaka. I only wanted you to not experience this pain alongside protecting innocents. Revenge never does fully heal the hole in one's heart, admitted Naruto. Then what does? Asked Mangetsu honestly. Fighting for something we can truly believe in. Lord Genjutsu is gone, but his dream of this nation is not. A dream which we have to fulfill no matter the cost, answered Naruto. For the first time in days, tears welled up in the broken younger's boys as the blonde beside him placed a firm yet comforting hand upon his shoulder. It's this system, Mangetsu. We shinobi are used by daimyos all across the world for their self-interests. I intend to break that system, revealed Naruto. He loved you. He never said it out loud, but I could see it in his eyes. The way he looked at you, you were the son he wanted, whispered Mangetsu miserably, making the blonde shake his head. I was a follower, somebody who shared his will for this nation. You were his F&B, the sole legacy left by his beloved wife. There was nobody he loved more than you, deep down you know it to be true, encouraged Naruto with a faint smile. Mangetsu didn't say anything as both men remained seated in comfortable silence for nearly half an hour. What will you do now? Asked the Hozuki clan heir after a while. The village wants me to be the fourth Mizukage, replied the blonde. You were my father's chosen successor, and there is nobody better suited than you in the village currently, agreed Mangetsu with a nod. Is that something you would be okay with? Questioned Naruto seriously, and looked straight into the younger boy's eyes. It's what father wanted, and I also feel that you will be a good choice. But I do need something from you in return, stated Mangetsu without hesitation. You want Yagura and Reika Kaguya's head for E-Lord II? Asked Naruto frankly. The dark and merciless smile he received from Mangetsu would have unnerved many who knew the boy, but Naruto could understand there was nothing but pain and revenge burning inside the boy's heart right now, just like it had consumed him for a decade and even now after what had happened to his own family. Death will be mercy. They made my father suffer horribly, it's only justice that I return the act tenfold. Same goes for their clans, I decide their fate. Give me that, demanded Mangetsu M. What will you do with them? I was hoping to use them as useful pawns for our invasion of the Land of Lightning, said Naruto seriously. All the better. B for B has always been the way of Kirigakure, you'll have your pawns, replied Mangetsu coldly. He watched as Naruto got back on his feet and gave him a firm nod which made him get up and offer a respectful salute. A world of peace and truth, a world of victors, let us create such a dream, said Naruto fiercely, as he offered his right hand towards the younger boy. A firm handshake was his answer. Kirigakure, 2 days later. Naruto and the 7 ninja swordsmen alongside nearly every ninja of their village somberly stood at attention as the burial ceremony of the second Mizukage was completed. The man was put to rest beside the grave of his beloved wife who had well before him, with their only son now standing near his parents' resting place in silence. Naruto wanted to make it a grand ceremony, but Mangetsu had forbidden it since his late father was never fond of such fanfare. There were no speeches either, as each of the ninja present here held some part of the blame for their cage meeting an early and disgraceful end. No shinobi should such a way. Personally, Naruto himself would prefer to go out fighting if it ever came to that. Just like his parents, his brother, the Spartans and his beloved wife had done. Her empty grave lying in another corner of the very same cemetery, her real body resting peacefully in her own village alongside their unborn child. The ones responsible for Genjutsu's death, the Karatachi, Hagoromo and Kaguya clans, were imprisoned alongside their respective leaders except for Lord Hero Hagoromo, who had perished by Naruto's own hand. While they were vital to the village's strength, their open rebellion could not go unpunished. He doubted simply either clan heads would be enough for Mangetsu, and his suspicions were proven correct as when the ceremony ended, the now Hozuki clan head approached him. The rest of the 7 ninja swordsmen joined them moments later and looked at him expectantly. What do we do with the prisoners? Asked Haku coldly, for once her soft heart devoid of any mercy after seeing the way they had the previous cage and abused her own father alongside members of her clan. Naruto nodded at the question as the group watched a beautiful redhead approach them. It was another one of his gambles, but one which both of them had agreed to in order to have someone watch his back and keep his cover from any Inkiri trying to blow it. Her name's Kaori Uzumaki, a mercenary who has offered her services to us, introduced Naruto calmly, making the redhead Kunoichi give an acknowledging nod towards the other swordsmen who looked at her suspiciously. A rogue ninja? Asked Zabuza with a frown. I do know how to fight but was never a ninja, to be honest. I was part of Azu's Fuinjutsu research team until I learned freelancing my services to more prospective parties offered much better pay. Yagura summoned me for a meeting, but by the time I reached here your general had taken over. So I gave him my offer instead, answered Kushina with a confidence and calm that even surprised her former Spartan comrade. But then again, she had spent a decade as a spy in the Land of Lightning daimyo's court. Something which would come in handy during the planned invasion. Can we really trust someone like her? Questioned Amayuri, distaste evident in her harsh tone. I only work with those who offer me what I deserve, otherwise I walk away. If you don't trust me, there is no deal and I go, replied Kushina without a flinch. Or we can just force you to give up your secrets, threatened Jinpachi, leaking some of his intent to intimidate the redhead, which only made her give him an ice-cold smile. Oh, care to act on your threat? She challenged. The swordsman moved swiftly, but before he could even get close, he simply disappeared in a puff of smoke as a green-colored scroll emerged on the ground, one which the redhead summoned into her hand swiftly while looking at the swords pointed at her by the other swordsmen. Is that enough of a display? You don't want your comrade to suffocate, do you? Asked Kushina icily. Release him or else, barked Amayuri furiously. The other swordsmen looked at Naruto, who had not yet raised his weapon, as had Mangetsu, who was looking at the redhead with a curious glint in his eyes. What they all didn't know was that both Kushina and the current leader had planned this entire little ordeal, and it was going exactly as per their plan. Release Jinpachi and maybe we can talk business, offered Mangetsu calmly, while looking at Naruto at the same time, who also nodded his consent, making the others look at the two of them as if they had lost their mind. Kushina instantly released the trapped swordsman, and before any further questions could be asked or protests made, or before Jinpachi could enact his vengeance, he was stopped by none other than Mangetsu himself. You have made your point. We'll consider hiring your services on one condition, proposed Mangetsu. The others stopped from voicing their protests by a harsh look from Naruto himself. Name it, said Kushina. The Hozuki clan head looked at the future Mizukage for a second before glancing back at the redhead. Can you help us give our enemies a fate worse than death? He asked. Kushina subtly glanced at Naruto, who had already told her about Mangetsu's desires, and together they had come up with a plan that would not just satisfy the boy but also help their future war strategy. With the Hagoromo, Kaguya and Karatachi clans imprisoned, it left the Hozuki clan as the strongest ninja clan of Kirigakure. Their support, along with those of the remaining clans like the Terumi and Yuki, were of great importance for Naruto to formally establish his rule. Other factions, namely the Anbu Black Ops, firmly supported him since he was one of their own, while the Hunter Corps also was on his side thanks to the S of Ino, who had been a member in their ranks. Most of the common ninja already liked him. The Hozukis wanted revenge, the Terumis wanted him to marry their heiress to forge a political alliance and offer their current clan head had made personally once the capital fell. The Yukis would be satisfied with more power and prestige. With the Masi of the Daimyo alongside his advisors and all their families, the remaining feudal nobility was scared to death of the ninjas doing the same to their factions should they rebel. With General Abe, the finest of the feudal military leaders, currently imprisoned and the Imperial Guard broken, any form of resistance was effectively crushed. If they played their cards right, then his next victory to achieve his true dream could soon become a reality. I can, promised Kushina without hesitation. What do you say, Naruto? Asked Mangetsu seriously. The Karatachi clan led the rebellion, with their clan head acting as the de facto leader of the rebels. All members except Yagura are to be right before his eyes. When that's done, Kaori, you shall subdue his will with your sealing techniques. He'll wish for death, but he'll continue to suffer as he made Lord Genjutsu suffer. We shall use him and his Jinchuriki prowess in an upcoming mission in the Land of Lightning, declared Naruto mercilessly, earning a nod from Kushina. Not one of his comrades raised any objection or looked conflicted with that brutal decision, with Mangetsu even looking extremely pleased. What about the other rebel clans? Asked Haku after a few moments, referring to the Hagoromo and Kaguya clans. Their children and non-combatants will be kept hostage within the village. Their fighters can take part in the mission we shall launch from Osaka alongside Yagura if they wish to save their clans and ever hope to regain any semblance of respect in this village. Most of them would likely perish in battle if the Land of Lightning falls for our ruse and sends most of their military might to stop what they will perceive to be a deep incursion, while our true forces will secretly attack the dear village and feudal capital when their forces are depleted. Have the remnants of the Imperial Guard also join this mission? I heard they like to fight lost battles. General Abe shall lead this expendable force if he wants to save his own family. If he's good as you say, Mangetsu, then maybe he'll just save this army of traitors from getting completely annihilated, ordered Naruto with a cold smile. When he had proposed this military action to Konoha, he had wondered just which troops he would have to risk for such a maneuver. For once destiny had worked in his favor, combining the remaining survivors from the Kaguya, Hagoromo, few ninjas that supported them, and the Imperial Guard. He would just have close enough to 7,000 fighters. More than the exact number he needed for this diversion. And if they actually survive this mission? Asked Kisum curiously. They'll continue running high-risk missions until we win the war, that is if they want to protect their families. Still have each of them be branded with curse marks. Should they try to rebel once again, they can be put down like the vermin there, proposed Mangetsu. I can arrange for that, assured Kushina. I suppose it's better than simply eat them. At least this way they can still be useful to our cause and to the village they betrayed, agreed Haku. They won't forget it, especially their children who may become a threat in the future. I say we kill them all, protested Amayuri, earning a nod from Kisum and a nonchalant shrug from Zabuza and Jinpachi. They all looked at the man who would be making that decision as their leader and the future ruler of their nation. To their surprise, Naruto simply smiled. We are not savages. Let the children live. If they develop a vengeful heart and grow up to take revenge, let them try. Those consequences shall be theirs and mine to deal with, answered Naruto simply. When he didn't receive any opposition to his proposal, he confirmed Kushina's services before starting to walk away until he stopped halfway and looked at the remaining swordsmen with a dark and challenging smirk over his lips. The same goes for all of you. If you ever feel the same way, come and face me. You're joking, General, whispered Haku, earning a brief chuckle from the blonde before he walked away. The sound of his retreating footsteps keeping the remaining swordsmen frozen in their place as they clearly understood the unsaid threat left by their new leader. October 10th, 20 years after Kirigakure's formation. Mei Terumi found herself standing among the thousands upon thousands of people, not just from her own village but also from all parts of the country that had arrived here only for this occasion. Having been recently discharged from the hospital and being freed from the sealing jutsu used by Yagura to control her by an Uzumaki mercenary of all people, she had barely reunited with her freed father and learnt just how the rebels had been crushed before another development surprised her even more. She had not yet got a chance to talk to the man who had saved her life, or even catch a glimpse of him this past entire month since he had been busy dealing with the traitors, restoring order within Kirigakure and the rest of the country. Now that those tasks were completed, the moment had finally come. The fourth Mizukage. For the first time in their nation's history and even in that of this world, a shinobi had taken complete control of an entire nation and overthrown the feudal leadership. It was a feat unheard of, especially for a nation as large as their own. She could only imagine the shockwave it would have caused across the rest of the world and the remaining great nations. It was the dawn of a new era. Even before formally assuming office, the new leader of their nation had done what his predecessors and previous feudal masters had failed to accomplish. After having united the ninja and civilian forces under his command by crushing out remaining pockets of rebellion, he the remaining civilian nobility previously loyal to the daimyo from all their assets and les. Any that tried to oppose this decision were never heard from again. Instead of keeping the newfound wealth along with the royal treasury of the previous daimyo for himself, the new leadership actually used nearly half the funds for the welfare of the impoverished people of their nation. The ninja clans from Kirigakure like the Terumi, Hozuki, and Yuki actually spread across the entire nation bearing these gifts from the new ruler for the people. It didn't end there, as all the ninjas were ordered to complete providing all the basic amenities their new cage felt were necessary for the welfare of their people. Food storage, trade routes, road development, water reservoirs, education centers, hospitals and local clinics, establishment of local garrison centers in each key cluster, setting up police forces and so much more. In the 1 month since the daimyo's fall, their nation had undergone a change nobody had ever dreamed of. A change led by shinobi themselves, which was enough to make the common masses forgive the innocents lost in the capital's fall and the brutality of the daimyo and his aides who had hoarded all the power and wealth only for themselves. Their new cage had displayed great insight by actually working for the people first before formally assuming office. He had even used the time before his coronation to actually reorganize the military for the next phase of the war. Instead of having the non-shinobi and shinobi acting as different armies, the fourth Mizukage combined their might. The immense might of their reformed army was divided into 4 legions. The 212th Legion led by Mangetsu Hozuki with his close friend Hakuyuki as his second-in-command. The 99th Legion led by the Anbu commander with Jinpachi acting as second-in-command. The 47th Legion led by Zabuza Momoichi with Amayuri acting as his respective second-in-command. And finally, the 501st led by the new Mizukage himself with Kisame Hoshigaki acting as his second-in-command. There was a reserve force that would be permanently stationed inside their nation to act in its defense while their 4 legions launched an all-out offensive against their enemies to win the war in their favor. It was risky but a strategy their new leaders seemed confident upon. Mei stopped herself from thinking further about the war as she was again reminded of how there were nearly a dozen things she wanted to talk about with their new cage, one of them being a brazen offer proposed by her own father of all. He had joked about it once with her when the man had been swiftly rising through the ranks under the previous Mizukage, but Mei had never imagined her old man would go ahead with such a proposal before even discussing with her seriously even once. Mei, he's the last of the Namikaze clan. Even if he rules this nation now, there is no way the people or the nobility including the ninja clans supporting him would risk his bloodline going extinct. He has proved himself too powerful a warrior for that, her father, Lord Minaze Terumi had advised. He just lost his wife and child. How could you be so insensitive? She remembered blasting him furiously. If he's smart and adapts to the politics behind running a nation, which I think he will, then he needs the unwavering support of the ninja clans. The clans in turn see the benefit of actually being related to the most powerful ruler this nation has ever seen. Sooner or later, they will all try to offer him the daughters in marriage in order to further advance themselves, explained Lord Minaze patiently. Just like you did for the Terumi clan and yourself, she asked bitterly, making the older man sigh as he walked towards her. Yes, I did it for our clan's future but also for your own, admitted her father, as he gently placed his hands upon her shoulders. Mine? She questioned him with a frown. You're a beautiful and kind woman, my daughter. Under normal circumstances, there would have been an army of suitors waiting for you. But you're a Jinchuriki, and after the events of the Civil War, the people of this village distrust you even more despite the fact that Yagura controlled your actions. I'll protect you for as long as I live, but someday I will be gone, and while I would like to believe that our clan will no doubt look after you as one of their own and their new leader, I just don't want to take any chances with your safety. Also, not many men would be interested in marrying you given the situation you are in except to gain power within our clan or over you, said Lord Minaze Terumi patiently. For the first time, Mei understood her father's actions had been to protect and secure her own future, more than that of their clan or his own alone. It had severely diminished the anger she had felt for him. And you think he won't? She had asked him hesitantly, making him smile. A man who has never lost any battle and one who conquered this nation has no need to resort to such desperate measures. More than me, you know it to be true, Lord Minaze had told her gently. Mei did not want to admit that he was right, but then she also remembered how Naruto had treated her like a normal human being and fellow ninja. For all the times he stood up for, all the times he encouraged her to believe in herself despite the village's rejection. She fondly remembered the day she had helped him with shopping after the death of his wife. It had been one of the best days of her life as he had proudly walked by her side as a friend and silenced anyone who tried to discourage her presence near him. He had even taken her out for eating afterwards, something which no man had ever done genuinely out of the goodness of their heart. I know you like him and he is fond of you as well to an extent. It is why I made a marriage proposal to him without informing you first, besides you were in the hospital at that time, whispered Lord Minaze with a smile. How do you know he is fond of me? Asked Mei. Was her father reading too much into something that didn't exist? You nearly killed him during the last battle, Mei. Even then, he didn't kill you or even cause any permanent injury. He went out of his way to save your life while risking his own gravely. I'm not saying he is in love with you, but he wouldn't go so far if you were not dear to him. The guilt came back to haunt her again, but her father lifted her chin to make her look into his eyes. He personally assured me that he does not hold that against you and knows you were being controlled by Yagura and his men. Don't blame yourself too much. If you hadn't done what you had to, I would be It's I should who be apologizing to you, whispered her father sadly. We're family. He had hugged her affectionately upon hearing those simple yet powerful words that explained everything they both were to each other. Does he really need me by his side, father? He has everything now, she had whispered, as her father gently broke the hug to look straight in her eyes. For a man who has everything, he does not have the most important thing of all, he had whispered sadly. What is that? She had asked curiously. Family. Those words had dispelled her remaining resistance towards this arranged political marriage, even if their clan was yet to receive a formal answer from Naruto himself. She wanted to think that she knew him to an extent and truly cared about him, was even attracted to him, but if he didn't want her to be a part of his life, then she was prepared to walk away even if it would disappoint her father greatly. She heard the excitement among the crowd grow more and more, with deafening cheering erupting moments later as she looked up to find the man she had been thinking about walk towards the rooftop of the Hokage Tower. He was wearing a black flak jacket matched by pants and boots of similar color. On top of that, he wore a stark white haori with the word, "Fourth," etched in deep red across his back. Lastly, he had a traditional Kirigakure headband wrapped around his right arm with the 4 symbols across it made of actual gold instead of bronze. It was simple, yet an attire that also made him look more appealing apart from his natural handsome face. May saw many women and even few men were blushing while the rest of the majority were simply happy. She clearly saw their hopes for the new Kage in their wide smiles and respectful gazes. A feeling which she herself felt as she looked at the same man, which made her smile as well. Mizukage's tower. As he walked towards the edge of the rooftop, Naruto Namikaze was left speechless by the sheer amount of people that had arrived from all over the country to watch his coronation. He knew his recent reforms had made him immensely popular among the people, but this was just. He was at a loss of words, yet he didn't waver in his steps and confidently kept marching forward as the roaring and cheering started increasing even more and more, and as he reached the edge, the people's roar of approval nearly echoed across entire Kirigakure. This was probably the greatest moment of his life, with the love and respect of an entire nation staring at him through its overjoyed people. An acknowledgement even his own motherland had not given him. But the people he wanted to be present the most in this moment were not here. His eyes futilely searching for phantom ghosts of his adoptive father and mother, Tobirama, Nagato, his Spartan comrades, and most of all Ino. His eyes widened for a second when in a fleeting moment he saw a blonde woman similar looking to his wife be present in the crowd below, only to quickly realize it was someone else and he was just seeing things. A deep sadness arose in his heart which he suppressed when he watched many familiar faces in the crowd. The 7 ninja swordsmen, the Anbu commander, even Kushina his oldest friend standing nearby to Mei Terumi. Their presence somewhat healed the hole in his heart and made him steel himself once again to raise his right hand in acknowledgement towards the sea of people whose cheers made him smile once again. October 10th, 20 years after the 5 great nations' creation. The 4th Mizukage was born. And the world was never the same again. Konoha. Hiruzen Sarutobi alongside his advisors and few clan heads watched the video recording sent by the Azukage on the astral projector. It was the pinnacle of Azu's success, the likes even Konoha couldn't even dream to achieve. The recording had been sent by one of Azu's deep cover operatives within their new revolutionized ally nation. He glanced to his side to look at his mentor, Tobirama Senju. He saw the man briefly smile when he watched his only son appear in front of a deeply enchanted crowd whose roars nearly deafened the entire world. The 4th Mizukage. While the coronation ceremony was nothing out of the ordinary, the sheer presence of so many people from each of the Land of Water's territories marked the beginning of a revolution that had shaken the foundation of the ninja world. A shinobi had seized a great nation under his rule. The feudal lords are calling him a tyrant. If not for our current war situation, I am very sure our own would also publicly denounce him like the others have already done, commented Koharu seriously. They were all surprised when Tobirama chuckled a bit, drawing everyone's attention to him. Does that look like a tyrant to you? No tyrant ever gave back so much, countered the Senju clan head without hesitation. Hiruzen and the others would have argued, but they had all heard of the swift reforms the new Mizukage had brought to his nation. In a matter of a few weeks, he had literally changed the destiny of his nation, and the people loved him for it, evident from the sheer amount of presence and cheering they saw right before their eyes. I don't think any Kage ever received such reception upon his coronation, whispered one of the other clan heads. That's no Kage, my lord, replied Lord Shin Nara cryptically. Lord Nara. That's a conqueror. A king in the truest sense, answered the Nara leader. Despite not being on his side, Tobirama felt immense pride from the bottom of his heart for what his son had achieved despite all that he went through in his miserable life. If he had been born in Kirigakure, Tobirama himself would have volunteered to follow the man before him. There was something truly special about the boy, a feeling he had only experienced for his deceased older brother who had ruled over the shinobi world. Now another Senju had taken up that mantle. Tobirama is a good leader, but Naruto will be simply great. He remembered Mito's parting words to his son before he left their village, and the visual before him was proof of the woman's words coming true. Did he really defeat two Biju and an army that outnumbered his paltry force many times over? Asked Danzo skeptically. All the reports we received from all our sources point that way. Does he ever lose any battle at all? Questioned Homura in disbelief. Tobirama understood his former students' feelings. As far as they knew, the new Mizukage had never lost a single battle at all. His series of victories beginning with his conquest of Osaka, which led to Tobirama's freedom from Kumogakure's captivity. It then went on to an even more impossible victory when he went deep behind enemy lines and eliminated the Lightning Daimyo, starting a war of succession that was only recently solved, leading to great instability. The successful assault of Nagi Island, forming a peace treaty with the Land of Fire, and now winning a civil war. If those feats weren't impressive enough, he remembered Operation Thunderbolt and all the other missions he had successfully completed, either as an Azu Spartan captain or acting as a Kiri Anbu operative. Each victory though came at a heavy price, leaving the boy alone in the end without any family or friends. However, it was a cost only Tobirama and a selected few individuals knew the boy had paid. But for the rest of the people of the world who didn't know the full story of Naruto Namikaze, there could only be one possible assumption due to their limited knowledge. His son was a conqueror not just of the battlefield, but also of the hearts and minds of people, if the unstoppable cheering he was witnessing was anything to go by. A shinobi king. What does this mean for us? Asked another clan head. Tobirama peeked a glance at Mito, who gave him a nod as he turned his gaze back towards Hiruzen and the rest of the people in the room. Only that we were lucky to form an alliance with him, and we should keep it that way if we are to win this war, advised Tobirama. Then we should turn this conqueror and his undefeated army's might upon our enemies, starting with Kumogakure. Gods know we need the help, proposed Lady Mito. I agree. For now, he might just be the answer to the foes that threaten to destroy us. I'll make sure our men are ready when he makes his next move. In the meantime, I'll send a congratulatory message from our end alongside a few gifts to honor his ascension, decided Hiruzen. Wise choice, Lord Hokage, agreed Lord Shin Nara. None of the others present in the room raised any objection to that, bringing an end to their emergency meeting, yet Tobirama's gaze found itself glancing back at the video recording. He didn't know what the future held for them, but for now. Your mother would be proud. As am I. Kirigakure. General Abe was being marched through the halls of the Cage Tower by a squad of Anbu Black Ops. He could not help but rethink about the events since his defeat as he was led towards the new ruler of their nation. Thousands of his men had during the capital's fall, but the moment he surrendered, all those who followed suit were spared and instead taken prisoners. Even when Mangetsu Hozuki learned of his father's tragic demise, Commander Saji of the Kumoun Brigade and the other 7 ninja swordsmen had prevented the grieving boy from extracting any unwanted vengeance upon their prisoners, citing their general's orders to them. Ever since then he had heard great tales from his prison guards about the sheer amount of changes their new ruler had undertaken since his rise to power. Most of it for the good of the people and the nation instead of feudal nobility. It had greatly increased the respect Abe felt towards the young man, even if he was the one keeping him and his family hostage. He saw 2 Anbu standing guard outside a door and realized the decisive moment had arrived. Once he was led inside, he finally came face to face with the man whose tales had spread to each and every corner of their nation. Perhaps even the world. General Abe offered a respectful salute to the 4th Mizukage, prompting the young man to get up from his seat in a respectful acknowledgement of that gesture. He then gestured for the Imperial General to take a seat, followed by signaling the Anbu to leave the room. Once they were gone, he took his own seat and looked at the older man. Please forgive me for not being able to offer you congratulations on your victory, said Abe truthfully, for doing so would only highlight his own failure to protect his feudal lord even more. The new Mizukage displayed maturity beyond his young age by waving off that apology. You did your job, General. I can respect that, as did I, although I wish this conflict had never happened in the first place, answered Naruto honestly. This conflict brought you here, Lord Fourth, pointed General Abe, was the man playing him by denouncing the civil war that led to his very ascension. I did not wish for it or start it, but that does not change that many people of our nation is in it. Including innocents, a price that is heavy for me to accept nonetheless. Do you know why you are here? Asked Naruto, earning a nod from the older man. You want me to lead AS force to Osaka in order to draw the military power of Kumogakure away from the dear village and feudal capital where you plan to launch your real attack. Your advisors told me about it as they brought me here. Naruto nodded, which made the man in front of him continue. Ruthless but a practical strategy. You want to get rid of all those who fought against you in the civil war without staining your own hands and be called a butcher. Our families held hostage and threatened if we do not follow this order, pointed General Abe harshly. It's the only way to save your lives and those of your families. General Abe was surprised upon hearing those words and watched the Mizukage sigh as he got up from his seat to glance back at the village from the window of his office. Your side also committed grave atrocities upon the people of this village and arcade. There are many who have not forgotten that. I am in a position now that I could eat you all and the people wouldn't bat an eye since you were the ones protecting a regime that kept them impoverished and suffering, explained Naruto. And yours is any different? Countered the general, earning a determined and icy stare. It is. Abe backed down since he knew it to be true even if he didn't want to accept it, since that only showed he had supported a ruler who had never truly cared about the people of this nation. But unlike the daimyo and the rebels, I am not a butcher. Throwing your defeated forces into prison and taking your families hostage was the only way for me to prevent my followers from inflicting horrible upon your faction. Even now many ask me for your heads and the only thing stopping them is the fact that I convinced them about this plan of action. They think this punishment is worse than death, explained Naruto frankly. And it isn't? Asked General Abe curiously. I am well aware that many will in this diversion but that can't be avoided. The only thing I can offer in return for those deaths is a full pardon and burials with full honors as well as the promise that their families will be taken care of, pledged Naruto seriously. General Abe was quite surprised by the genuine terms being proposed considering his faction had completely lost and was at the mercy of this man. Why do you want me to lead? Asked the general. Because you are the only one who can actually save this army and keep the casualties to a minimum. All those who survive this battle and are ready to pledge their loyalty to the new regime shall be pardoned and accepted back amongst the armed forces even if many don't like it, promised Naruto. I don't understand. Why go so far for us the losing side? Questioned the general seriously. How can I conquer other nations if I cannot even win the loyalty of all my countrymen? Besides, extending a hand to the losing side in order to completely unite one's nation is the duty of any competent ruler. General Abe's eyes widened upon hearing those words from the Mizukage himself. Even after everything that had happened, even if they were on opposite sides, the man still considered him and the other rebels as citizens of this nation. He was willing to put aside the cries for vengeance for the sake of their nation's future. He doubted the former daimyo, Yagura or he himself would make the same choice had they been victorious in their struggle. Or maybe that was exactly why they had lost in the first place as they had fought for maintaining the current status quo, their own powers and those of the nobility. While Genjutsu and his successor were fighting for the people and the right future of their nation. His decision was made. Naruto watched the general get up from his seat and walk towards him. He looked into the man's eyes for a long moment before the general knelt in front of him respectfully. I shall follow you, Lord Fourth. With people like you by my side, I might just conquer this world, he replied with a smile, as he offered his hand to his new ally who accepted it respectfully. Dungeons. Kushina watched the prison guards quickly offer respectful bows as their new cage walked past them with her following behind him. Together, they marched towards a particular cell where a former enemy was held. In the past few weeks, this man had lost everything and was a shell of his former self. He was overthrown from power, his entire clan right before his eyes. And now, he would truly cease to exist even if he remained alive for however long in this world. Kushina would have hesitated from doing what she was about to had the same man not tried to kill her oldest friend, the previous Mizukage to death and terrorize the people. As Naruto opened the cell's door, she came face to face with Yagura Karatachi or what was left of him. Upon realizing just who had arrived to meet him, He tried to break free, but the dozens upon dozens of chakra chains she herself had created kept him restrained and drained what little chakra that was already not taken from him. The man was not tea despite him having done the same to his predecessor, but she could see he had stopped eating properly after witnessing his clan's eat something that had scarred him for life if the madness in his eyes was any indication. Here to gloat, my fellow traitor, spat Yagura with hatred clearly present in his bitter tone. It's time, answered Naruto simply. If only the fools who follow you can realize your real truth. That you are an even bigger traitor than they think I am, spy, accused Yagura. I am not here to discuss right or wrong with you. There was a time when I used to think of such things, now I only believe in having the power to accomplish my dreams. Do not follow people that I hate, refuted Naruto without hesitation. He gestured to his friend who walked forward but was stopped when Yagura looked straight at him. Why did you eliminate only my clan and not the others? Asked Yagura honestly. It was the least B option. The other clans are bigger and more stronger than yours, something which I can use in the war effort. You on the other hand with the face of the rebellion punishing you is necessary. My supporters wanted to crucify someone, I chose you and your family became you with the most visible and least B option. That's all, replied Naruto frankly. You really are a heartless bastard, whispered Yagura venomously. You lost the right to judge me the moment you tear our predecessor to death. I defeated you in battle and as the loser, this is your fate. Yagura Karatachi, for your crimes against Kirigakure, I sentence you to a life of S. Enjoy your new prison, declared Naruto without hesitation or mercy. Kushina quickly performed a set of hand seals before her right hand over the struggling former Mizukage's head, making a set of kanjis flow across his entire body. In a few moments, the man slumped over only to rise up again a few minutes later, only this time his eyes would be red in color. What? Asked a gruff voice, which certainly did not belong to the soft-spoken Karatachi clan head. Hello, Three Tails, called Naruto respectfully. It's you. What is the meaning of summoning me like this? Asked the Biju, now completely conscious in the body of his host. We loosened the seal controlling you, enough for you to seize control of this body without completely breaking free while trapping your Jinchuriki's conscious in his own mind, answered Naruto, making the Biju glance at Kushina who stared at him unflinchingly. You Uzumaki are really something. But again, why? Questioned the beast. I promised to improve your situation. This is the first step, said Naruto seriously. I'm listening. For now, I am willing to give you limited control of this body. Help me defeat my enemies in this war and I shall set you free, offered Naruto. Just like that? Asked the tailed beast skeptically. You'll be free to live wherever you want as long as you answer my nation's call whenever required. To defend my people whenever your powers are required. Do that and you won't ever have to be confined to Jinchurikis again, promised Naruto. So from AS to a mercenary. That's some improvement, said the beast mockingly with a laugh. It was quite surprised when there was no outward reaction by Naruto, who simply stared right into his eyes despite the mockery. Do I have your word that I'll be set free of this body if I help you win your war? Asked the Three Tails seriously. Yes, answered Naruto honestly. Then I shall help you defeat your enemies. With this body, maybe I cannot do as much destruction, but my attacks will be more precise and Yagura never really stood a chance against someone like you, whispered the Three Tails with a chuckle. You'll learn about your target soon enough and will be shipped out soon under General Abe and his army. I don't need to say that you need to pretend as if Yagura is still in charge for your allies to not panic and do something foolish, cautioned Naruto. What makes you think I won't just K them all and switch sides? Threatened the Biju. He saw the boy's natural blue eyes turn red in an instant, followed by a monstrous K intent now being rained down upon him. The fourth Mizukage walked back into the cell until he was staring right into the Biju's eyes. You are free to try. And I promise to hunt you down to the end of this world and beyond. Your end will be something every Biju will remember and fear. Or work with me and I'll help improve the condition of your brethren, proposed Naruto icily. The Biju looked at him for several long moments before giving a single nod. Wordlessly, the fourth Mizukage walked out of the cell with an ice-cold but satisfied smile present on his lips. Is this truly a good idea? Asked Kushina, as she followed after him. It's a gamble. In case the beast tries to betray us, then I have already marked his host's body. I'll teleport wherever he runs off to and deal with him personally, reassured Naruto confidently. I don't understand, why? She asked curiously. Let's just say it's an insurance, answered her old friend cryptically. Insurance? Against someone whom I don't trust completely. Kushina didn't understand his reasoning despite the explanation but chose not to pursue her questions further. Now that we have the beast's cooperation, use it to gather its chakra that our dear Azukiage had requested to make his secret super weapon. Can't have him thinking that we are no longer loyal to him or that the curse mark on you is undone, suggested Naruto seriously. I understand. There is something that I have wanted to ask you, whispered Kushina hesitantly, making her friend look at her curiously. Will you attack Azu for what was done to us and the Spartans? She asked honestly. I would like to avoid that. No matter what happened, it's still our motherland. I'll be content to let it retain its autonomy if the Azukiage confesses his crimes and resigns after restoring the honor of our comrades. They will however join the great nation I shall build. Should they refuse, then I will bring them to their knees just as I must for the other nations, explained Naruto without hesitation. Then I hope the Azukiage sees reason, prayed Kushina hopefully. Naruto chose not to comment on his friend's optimism. Knowing the old man and his desire to cling to power even after so many years, it didn't look as if he would give them an easy way to resolve this. But he would cross that bridge at the right moment. As night settled in, he found himself resting atop one of the mountains surrounding the mist village. Looking down, he saw all the lights across the different sectors and the vast forest that surrounded its outskirts. Glancing even further, he saw even more swaths of land. All of it belonging to him. It was still surreal to accept that he was now the uncontested ruler of an entire nation and just a cage of a military village. The fourth Azukiage. I wonder what you would think of me now, mother. He whispered out loud. Even after all these years, her loss haunted him. She had protecting her son whom she wished would grow up to be a fine Uzushiogaki or shinobi. Instead he joined the Black Ops, then became a spy and now the ruler of a completely different nation. A part of him knew it was pointless to think about what she would think when Inoue Namikaze had been for years. Maybe it was just another way for him to remember her. He didn't know what she would think of his actions and journey, but he had wanted her here. Lord Fourth. He blinked in surprise when he saw May climb up one of the slopes leading towards the cliff he was currently sitting over. Had he been so lost in his thoughts that he hadn't even sensed her presence? Her presence also reminded him of the marriage proposal made by the girl's father and it made him hesitate. He liked the girl but his heart belonged to another, even if she was Kushina understood that fact despite her own feelings for him, their relationship being complicated to say the least. But May. I'm sorry for intruding, she apologized sincerely. You wouldn't have if you didn't think what you wanted to discuss was not important. Still you climbed up an awful lot of distance to reach me, he commented with a chuckle while glancing at the high mountain the poor girl must have climbed whereas he had simply teleported here via one of his marks upon the hilltop. She nodded and took a seat as he allowed her the next couple of minutes to catch her breath before looking at her expectantly. I heard about what my father did, she said at last, albeit hesitantly. May, he began, but she raised a hand making him pause. I want you to know that I can talk him out of it, she proposed resolutely. He continued listening to her and understood the meaning behind her words quite clearly. And I'm sorry I couldn't congratulate you earlier for becoming Azukiage, said May apologetically, which made him smile and wave off her apology since he had already received countless such congratulations already. It's nothing. And I'm also sorry for hurting you and raising arms against you, she whispered sadly. Is that why you are offering to talk your father out of the marriage proposal as a form of apology or because I am just not good enough? He asked jovially, making her eyes widen in horror. Nothing like that. She was about to clarify, until his pleasant smile made her stop. We're friends. What kind of man would I be if I abandoned you when you needed me most? Besides, you did what you had to protect your family. It was just an unfortunate situation, but we are past that now, he reassured her. Her eyes became moist when she looked at the faint white hair among his blonde ones, a result of that devastating battle. She had heard whispers among the doctors that he had lost quite a few years of his life exerting himself beyond humanly possible. And yet he didn't blame her for putting him in that position. How could someone be so selfless? I know what the clans want from me. As the last of the Namikaze clan, They want me to marry once again and have more children so my line doesn't go extinct. The reason why I haven't given an answer to your father is not because I don't like you or see the sound reasoning behind the village requesting something like this from me. But I couldn't protect my wife and unborn child. I can't just forget that or forgive myself for not being there when they needed me most. Doing that again to someone else is not something I wish for. Besides, something that is supposed to and doesn't will eventually fade away. Be they clan, system, or nations. Maybe it's my clan destiny to fade away with me, he explained patiently. May understood quite a lot from his answers, but it only increased her respect for him. Many would call him too fearful for not choosing to marry once again, but most of such people saw a cage or the last heir of a clan on the brink of extinction. They couldn't or most probably didn't want to see the person who had suffered a great tragedy in his life and was impacted because of that quite deeply. Besides, we're at war. As Mizukage, I'll be leading my armies into battle against our enemies. That definitely raises some serious questions about a happy future. Even if I am to ignore all of that and marry, my wife will be required to bear children very soon given the state of the world due to the ongoing war. They won't just be responsible for helping rebuild my clan but also keep this nation together while I am at war. Should I fall in battle, unfortunately, another power struggle will start, and while I would like to trust our people, there will always be a few who would want to completely disband the old power structure just like I had to with Yagura. I am prepared to but can't watch my future family BK in a power struggle should I fall. Is that something you want for yourself? May was taken aback a little by the harsh possibilities he had presented, but also grateful that he was actually thinking about the challenges and dangers his possible spouse would be facing. Most men in his position would have simply done what his supporters were asking without giving such deep thought on the consequences. But she had also thought about the same over the past few weeks. When you put it like that, there is no one else but me who can bear that responsibility, she replied confidently, and didn't miss the surprise on his face. Most women would have ran off, but she hadn't. Explain. I am the heiress of one of the noble ninja clans of this nation. As such, I am well versed with the politics and the factions involved in it. You have a favorable opinion of me despite my Jinchuriki status and are a dear friend, something I'm not sure the next ruler will be if something happens to you. More than that, you are currently the only shinobi in this village who can handle the beast inside of me. My seal will weaken during pregnancy, and I know you can keep the beast under control with your power during that critical stage. I am more than capable enough of crushing anyone that dares to harm me if our last battle was any indication, she pointed with a smirk. To say he was impressed would be quite an understatement. There really was a sharp mind behind that beauty of this woman. This marriage is as much to secure my own future and that of my family. Most importantly, you are one of the few who treated me like a real person and not a pariah. You stood up for me, encouraged me and protected me even when you suffered for it. You promised me a better future and I see that you are delivering it step by step. I consider you a dear friend and would like us to be more, if you want it, proposed May with a gentle smile, a faint blush creeping up on her cheeks. Naruto contemplated her explanation and honestly couldn't come up with a better way forward. The village wouldn't leave him alone on this topic anytime soon, and did he really have the right to end his clan's history? His mother had went through great struggle to give him a future, had wanted him to carry the Namika's name forward with pride. But what would doing this mean for his future? What answer he would be able to give Ino if he was able to bring her back to life with Madara's help? Would he still be able to have a life with her if he married someone else? Would she take this as a betrayal of their relationship? I need some time to think about this, May, he answered at last. While not the answer she was hoping for, she understood his need to contemplate this course of action. She trusted his judgment and knew he would do what was best for both of them. I want you to join me in the next campaign. I won't be able to take Kumogakure and their feudal capital without your help. If we achieve victory together, the dissident voices in the village will have no choice but to accept this marriage despite you being a Jinchuriki. It will also allow me to decide for myself and give you the same opportunity. What do you think? He asked her seriously. It's a good idea, she agreed readily. They settled into a peaceful silence, and after a few moments, he offered her his hand, which made her smile even more as she joined hers with his and realized how warm it was. It's quite a view, she whispered happily. It is, agreed Naruto, as he watched the moonlight shine upon their village. I'm proud of you, Naruto. He smiled briefly, wondering if she would feel the same way if she came to know his real truth. But that was a question he would prefer remained unanswered, so he settled for a simple one instead. Thank you. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.